Well, first off, April, thank you for coming on here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
For sure. So, yeah, starting this off, would you be able to give us a little bit about who you are and what you do here on the internet?
I would love to. um, yeah, so my name is April. I have a YouTube channel that I just started recently, pretty recently, where I just express my soul's work, I guess you could say, of just learning to live in heart-based consciousness, learning how to live in a flow state. Um, Yeah, and I just share. I'm both a student and teacher, I suppose, because I'm a student to life always, but I share the wisdom that I gain, hopefully to help others along their journey as well.
Mm, awesome. Yeah. So, is that what it revolves around? Is heart-based consciousness? And
Yeah.
what else did you say? You said heart-based consciousness and something else as well.
Uh Being in a flow state.
Being in flow. Yeah. So, how does
Mhm.
that all come together? Would you be able to explain or summarize what it is that you talk about?
Yeah, so essentially heart-based consciousness is moving away from the mind, getting out of your ego driven desires or being driven by fear and dropping into the heart and getting back in tune with the divine, your higher self, God, source, spirit, whatever term resonates, but just learning how to get back in tune with that lives in your heart and allowing it to guide you through life. And it can be kind of tricky because it's not like your ego ever stops talking. Your ego honestly gets louder and louder the more that you begin to live from your heart. And so it's like a practice of falling into egoic consciousness and then going back to the heart and then going back into your ego and back into the heart. And so it's getting into the rhythm of noticing when you've strayed into the ego and being conscious enough to always come back to center over and over and over again, and just allowing what excites you to guide you through life, which can also be a tricky thing, learning to understand what excites you based on your heart and not your ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what does the practice look like to go with the flow of the heart?
So for me, I set my day up first thing asking in prayer and meditation, asking for guidance. I personally use the word God, but I know that doesn't resonate with a lot of people, so you can use whatever term. But I personally start the day off asking for God to guide me, show me what to say and not say, what to do and not do. And then it's dropping out of the mind, making the commitment to yourself to be in the unknown, to allow life to sort of just unfold in front of you one step at a time. It's sort of like the steps are being created as you take the step. So it's
Mm,
kind of scary, but you have to have a deep trust in the unknown and a deep trust in spirit to to go with the flow, because you're essentially, it looks like you're stepping into the void and you
the
just have to
unknown.
trust that
Mm-hmm.
God is going to create a step for you right before you need it.
Mm,
um so I would say it just looks like following the impulses of your heart, which feels like expansion. It feels like joy, freedom, peace. Whereas when your ego is controlling you, your ego controls you through fear, restriction, limitation. If you don't do this, you're never going to make it, or the stories that we create. So learning to decipher when you're in a story and you're operating from a story of the mind versus being in the unknown. You're letting life unfold one step at a time.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a powerful point is you start off with the intention at the beginning of the day, or really always. It's the intention of surrender, essentially. Saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I don't got to figure it out. Guide me. Guide me, God, divine. the force, whatever you want to call it. I'm
Hmm.
gonna let my hands off the steering wheel and do what you want to do with this vessel. I think that's the essence of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. I think that's where this path really leads us to, is we get a glimpse into the divine and God first of all, and then we just continually surrender into the divine nature that we are and let it work
Hmm.
through us. That's the most important part, is we let this love flow through us. You know, the way of the heart, the path of the heart is something that we just let. It's almost like another force, even though it's not. You know, it's actually a part of us. But to the old paradigm of the mind, it kind of seems like another force, but it's really just a higher intelligence that we neglected for a very long time. You know, that's what spiritual awakening is awakening up to this higher intelligence of the heart and just letting that be in the driver's seat rather than the mind. And the mind never shuts up. You're right. As you said, the mind is still in the back seat, just yammering on. A backseat driver, you could say. So it's just a matter of knowing how to listen to the heart, knowing how to just step back a little bit and let it drive. You know, let it drive the vehicle. Yeah.
Hmm.
So would you say it's like pretty much revolves around intention, yes, but also meditation, so that we're still enough and we can hear the subtle whispers of that intuitive guidance?
Hmm. It's almost like learning how to create a still point amidst the chaos,
Yeah.
because we're never going to get rid of the chaos. Like the mind is always going to be the mind, and we can either let it control us and consume us, or we can learn to become the still point inside of, like, the still point in the middle of it all, that's just watching it and learning how to choose, like, that's not helpful, that's not helpful, that's not helpful, let it all go, and then choosing, okay, like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I can use the mind for this and I can use the mind for that. So learning how to use it as a tool rather than the driving force.
Yeah. Rather than it use you. In its sort
Right.
of maniacal inhibitions, you know? It's like it becomes the servant when before it was the master. You know, this whole
Hmm.
path, this whole spiritual journey is just about becoming the captain of the ship. It's about sovereignty. And
Hmm.
it's ironic because how we find sovereignty is through surrender, but it's not surrender to the ego. It's surrender to something that you could say transcends the ego in all of its delusions. So yeah, this ironic kind of joke in there is we find sovereignty through surrender. We find freedom through devotion and submission to something greater than ourselves, our lowercase s self. It's the higher
Hmm.
case s self, you could say.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the essence of it. It seems like
uh,
I come to that. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something to say?
no, keep going.
I was just gonna say, it seems like I come to that in every conversation as of late. Is just surrender. You just got to give up control, and it's not even like you're giving up control. You're giving up the idea that you're in control. You know, your little self is in control. So you just give up that idea, get out of your own way, and then yes, for sure, you do find a sense of flow in all of the comings and goings of our life. You know, you can't
Hmm.
stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Is what Swami Muktananda says. I like to keep that in the back of my head. You can't stop the waves. The waves are always they're always going, you know. They're always crashing, but if you learn how to surf, it just makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more fun too. I don't know if you want to use the word fun, but a little bit more enjoyable at least. And I think that's the whole point of this thing, is we're supposed to enjoy this human experience here amidst the darkness and amidst the suffering of our life. Would you say that is also the essence that you feel in your life? Do you feel you're just a lot
Hmm.
happier, for lack of a better word? You find a
Yeah.
little bit more joy in your life?
Joy and just beauty. I find
Ah,
great beauty in the depths of my pain, because a
mm,
big part of this is surrendering. I often feel like sometimes surrendering can come across like you're giving up, but it's not that you're giving up when you surrender. You're just dropping your weapons and you're stepping back and refusing to continue battling with yourself.
mm,
And when you do so, it's like all of the pain that you've been trying to keep at a distance comes washing over you, and you must learn to surrender to the pain at the beginning, because that's what we've been battling for so long, to keep at a distance. And when you can learn how to find beauty even in your pain, I think that is when we learn how to alchemize it even more rapidly.
Yeah, we transmutate it. I know what you
Mm-hmm.
mean. Easier said than done, for sure, but I think that that's the idea. Finding beauty in the pain. Yeah. I mean, life is suffering. It's dukkha, as Buddha says. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the essence is the Four Noble Truths is we find out we've been doing it to ourselves the whole time, and there is a way out of it. And it is finding a sense of beauty with the pain, working with the suffering rather than against it. Yeah.
Right. Like all of the greatest pieces of poetry and art and literature all come from expression through the pain,
That's
learning
very
how to
true.
take your pain and turn it into something beautiful.
Yeah. Right? That's so true. Yeah.
Because pain is inevitable. It's just what do you do with it?
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, what are you going to do with it? Now, do you think the pain or suffering or just the entropy of our life is what leads us to this flow state, to the way of the heart, to spiritual awakening, you could say, is in one way or the other, we reach a sort of a point of like, hey, there's got to be another way, a point of exhaustion with the suffering. And then that leads us into being able to work with the suffering.
Right. I believe that when we suffer, it's because we're in resistance to the pain. When we're suffering, we're still identifying with the pain. And so we're keeping it at a distance. We're pushing it away. We're trying not to feel it. And that's when we suffer.
Mm.
That's when it becomes this like underlying sense of constant anxiety and depression, is when we're in resistance. But when we
Mm-hmm.
can surrender and get into a flow state and just allow what comes up to come up, while learning how to simultaneously disidentify ourselves from it, that's when the suffering leaves. And it's almost like you can find a sense of peace even in the pain. So your suffering turns to peace, not because the pain goes away, but because you're no longer fighting against it, and you're
Yeah.
more so becoming friends with it.
Mm.
And And then, of course, once we learn how to befriend our pain and dive down into the depths with it, we're eventually going to rise up, but we can only rise up as high as we were willing to go down.
Ooh. That's powerful. Yeah. Befriending the pain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds rough. Sounds daunting, but that is the truth. Yeah, we're all going to go through it in one way or the other. And if you're not now, you're probably gonna. I hate to break it to you. We're all gonna get old, sick, and die, as the Buddha also saw. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think this is the only true way to find peace and happiness and a little bit of harmony. And we don't seem to know how to go about it as a people, as a collective, as a consciousness. We try to find this peace in material things and ephemeral matters, but it never adds up. The mind always wants to say, well, what about this car? What about this nice apple pie? What about this movie? Maybe this, maybe that. It's a lot of maybes. And I think, yeah, we get to a point where, for all of us, it's different. It's hard to say, but we get to a point where it's like, I don't want to play this game anymore. And you start to play a different game, And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's the game of befriending the pain. It's the game of befriending the pain in some sort of way. And it doesn't, I think you mentioned this, it doesn't negate any of that stuff, any of the ephemeral stuff. It doesn't negate that game. It's just like, that there's a greater game that's being played amidst the comings and goings, amidst the temporary stuff, amidst the movie and the narratives that the mind wants to keep yammering on about, as I said before. Amidst
Mm-hmm.
that, it's like we learn to dance the dance a little bit differently, and thus it does create a different purpose. It seems it creates a different purpose in the human vessel and the human expression. It's like a greater it's a greater pursuit, if you want to call it a pursuit, of living amidst all of the noise. It's a greater light amidst the darkness. And yeah, that's the dance of the Tao, sometimes I like to say.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that is priceless. Once you
Yeah.
tap into that, it makes life more of an adventure, more of a journey. Like once you tap into the Dharma, I feel it's like, yeah, this is what it's all about. And
Mhm.
it's not bypassing. That's the thing.
Mhm.
It may seem like I'm sounding like bypassing here, but it's not. If anything, you go more into it. You get more into the ephemeral and temporary experiences, It actually allows you to enjoy the times that are going to come to pass. It's
Mhm.
yeah, and it makes the pain not so bad too. It's a win-win. It makes the suffering not so bad, and it makes the good moments even better because they're temporary. So yeah, it's just a whole different wavelength to live on in this movie of life. It's a different way to watch the movie, I guess you could say. It goes from 2D to 3D. You put the 3D goggles on, you start to see it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just a complete 180 of perspective. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, how did you start to see this in your life? You don't have to get into it if it's too personal, but is that what brought
Mm.
you to this wavelength? Is like a sort of exhaustion of suffering and pain? Like, would you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say so I had my initial spiritual awakening at the beginning of 2020, which I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And for a while I was into just like the surface level, which is there's nothing wrong with that. You kind of have to go through that phase where you're like, oh, I just want to learn how to manifest and how to make my life better. And I want that. And so you're kind of using your ego to manipulate spirituality almost. And so I was doing that at the beginning of my awakening. And then around 2 years ago, maybe halfway through from the beginning of my awakening to now, I hit rock bottom in like a very dark way. And I was forced to confront myself because whenever you go through a spiritual awakening, whether you want to try and stay on the surface level or not, something's going to happen that's going to force you to look at yourself in the mirror if you don't
Mm.
do it yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was in resistance for months when this happened. I was just in resistance, and I had constant anxiety, constantly, always anxious, and I had no clue. I had no clue how to get rid of it or what to do with it. And at one point, I just had to sit in silence and take a hard look at myself in the mirror and look at all of the darker aspects of myself that had gotten me down into this place of rock bottom, and learn how to, rather than hating these aspects of myself, rather than blaming or shaming or denying, I had to almost become like this great presence of compassion and empathy and unconditional love
Mm-hmm.
for these versions of myself, which was very difficult and it was very painful. Um, it took a lot of journals and a lot of crying and a lot of hard conversations with people in my life and with people that I love. And I came out the other side and I just feel such a deep level of peace that I've never experienced before in my life, that I know I am only receiving access to because I finally just stopped battling myself and I chose to surrender to the darker parts of myself and to befriend them and listen to their story, hear what they had to say, what they went through, why they were acting out the way that these versions of myself were acting out in the physical. And yeah, just having to come to terms and learning how to give and release every day, even if each day you have to take it day by day, moment by moment, and learn how to forgive the moment and then forgive the day and release it
Yeah.
and say to yourself, this day is over. There's nothing I can do to change it. All I can do now, surrender to what happened, take the lessons from it and move forward,
Mm.
which is extremely challenging to do. But if you practice it every day, it just becomes a part of your life.
Yeah. And it's worth it. right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would never go back to the version I was before I hit that rock bottom. And I would
Mm.
also never take away that experience in my life. As much as it was painful to go through, I would not be this version of myself that I am now if I had not surrendered and felt the pain and experienced that. So, and I know life has ups and downs, so I'm sure I won't go as low as I did, but I'm sure I'll continue to feel pain throughout my life. And now I just have a deeper trust in pain
Ooh.
that I didn't have before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Powerful. Very well said.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Forgive the day. I like that. You gotta forgive the day.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think once you take the red pill, per se, there's no going back. Once you can see this, how you see it, you couldn't go back even if you really wanted to. Not that you want to, but let's say hypothetically you wanted to. I feel like there's something in all of our brains that switches, some light that comes on that no matter how dim it can get, it's always on. The switch is always flicked. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just like this thing. It's like there's no going back. And that's the good news, though, actually. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's powerful stuff, man. It's powerful stuff. It's once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's what I like to
Yeah.
say.
And even if you like veer off course for a couple weeks, you'll always come back.
Yep.
It's inevitable.
Mm. It makes me think about like past lifetimes, and it's just entertaining the idea here of like maybe this is something you switch on in past lifetimes, and even if you die and become reborn and you get lost in the darkness, it's still always switched on. You know, maybe the
Mm.
spiritual awakening was from, I don't know, hundreds of lifetimes ago when it flicked on, and then it's always on. Or maybe this is the first one. I don't know. I'm just entertaining some ideas here. But if there are multiple lifetimes, it would lead me to believe where in some way that switch is always flipped. It has to be, you know. Maybe it's always
Hmm.
flipped for all of us. That's the thing. We're all enlightened, you know. That's it. Yeah, I think you just in one way or the other, we're all on the path. You know, we're all walking each other home, as Ram Dass says.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't think it's. I'm gonna actually disagree with myself and say it's not like a matter of 100 lifetimes ago you flipped the switch, because in essence we all flipped the switch. You could say at the beginning of time,
Hmm.
and we just kind of got lost in our own ignorance over generations and generations and lifetimes and lifetimes. So it's just a matter of time before we all get the message. You could say, yeah,
Yeah. I think everything happened all at once in like an instant, like the holy instant.
yeah,
Every single lifetime, every single everything all happened in a lifetime. This is my personal view of it,
mm-hmm,
is we were home with God or source, and everything was good and beautiful and unconditional love and unity. And there was this thought that arose of what would happen if we weren't one with God? What would happen if we were separate? And then in a holy instant, every timeline and realm and dimension was created, everything played out, and then we instantly returned back home. So we never actually left the source. We never actually left the oneness. We're just living in the thought, what if? And because we entered into time through density, it extended. So it feels like it's an eternity that we've been gone. And it feels so solidified almost that we are separate from God. We're here, we're on earth, here's time, here's space. It's so obvious. When in reality, we're just living in our own dream and we never actually left. We're already home again. We're just
mm-hmm,
playing out what happened in time when we wondered, what if?
mm-hmm. Yep, and you can return right now, here and
Yeah,
now. That's it.
the
It's that
choice.
simple. Yeah, the choice. Have you read A Course in Miracles?
Halfway through it.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say you're talking a lot like Course in Miracles right now. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's the essence. Is that we were in this kumbaya state. It's all good, love and light. We were one with God. We asked, what if it happened? But right at that same instant, there was redemption. There was retribution. There was a sort of the act of return, as you said. And this is all an illusion. This is all just a dream. And yeah, so there is this like it's so esoteric. It's hard to explain. It really is. But it's like we're already home, yet we're living in the delusion that we're not home. And this delusion is perpetrated by ourselves. Like we're doing this to ourselves. But all you have to do is just come into the holy instant of right now, the holy instance of the moment. And
Hmm.
you will find that kingdom of heaven that you've never left. It's the prodigal son right there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty deep. So, yeah, I feel it though. And that's the truth. Damn, I had a point, but we got so out there on that one.
That's okay.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't even
We
know,
can
dude.
just take a few breaths.
Might have to all take a few
Maybe.
breaths here on that one. I'm gonna take a quick sip.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. It's almost like too. That's part of the miracle. Well, maybe we can ponder this ourselves. Would it be such a miracle if we never got lost in the first place?
Mm.
Isn't it something special to be bestowed the moment of like, oh my God, the holy instance really like entering your being? Would it be so amazing and awe inspiring if you never forgot? It's almost like it seems, and I know a Course in Miracles purist would probably disagree with me on this, but it seems like we had to get lost in the first place in order to be found, in order to, find ourselves being such a miracle. You know, it's like
Hmm.
if we were always found, always with God, which we always are, and if this dream never happened of time and space, would finding God, having God realization be so just, oh my, just, oh wow. If we were never lost, if we never had the illusion of being lost, at least.
Mm. I think that's the beauty of the human experience. I think that is why there are so many souls incarnated on Earth, and there are so many souls that want to incarnate on Earth, because I believe that that is like one of the most beautiful parts about being a human that you don't get access to in other dimensions or universes, is that we forget. And the beauty about forgetting is that when you remember,
Yeah,
it's like one of the most beautiful experiences in the world.
I would say it is the most beautiful
Yeah,
experience.
it's the most beautiful experiences in the world. But I think once we return to God or leave, however, when we are home with God, the idea of a miracle ceases to exist because we are the miracle.
Hmm.
And we want and yearn for nothing because we are everything and we have everything. So the idea of even forgiveness, the idea of healing, the idea of miracles just all vanish in the complete oneness.
Yeah, it's kind of silly.
That's
Yeah.
why we chose to experience being human, because the act of remembering is just incredible.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I don't think the act of remembering is all of a sudden one moment in meditation or some kind of ephemeral experience, just like all the others. The act of remembering is an embodiment. It's actually living as the remembrance, you know?
Mm.
And that's another miracle. That's a continuous miracle is you live as the remembrance of what we just described. You know, you live as remembering that you are a part of God. And so is everybody else. That's the thing too. Everybody else gets included in this. That's a huge part of it. Is It's not just you, it's everybody else is a part of God, is a son of God, son and daughter of God. Yeah. And it's continual. Every day you wake up, every night you go to sleep, maybe even after you die. Actually, definitely after you die. Before you were born, it's this continual existence, non-existence, whatever you want to call it, of continual remembrance and embodiment in the human form and not in the human form, of
Mm.
walking side by side with God. Yeah, and that is, wow. Yeah, that's truly miraculous. And that is the truth. It may sound like some crazy ass hippie talk to anyone that has no idea what we're talking about right now. They're like, what are these people even saying? I understand. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is only, you can only feel this yourself. Like you can only have it enter your being by ardent practice and ardent surrender, as we described
Mm.
before. Right now, we're just sort of serving as a testament or guideposts to this wavelength. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's only so much a book can do for you, or a podcast, or a teaching, or really anybody else. It all comes back to you. You know, you save yourself. You have to go
Yeah.
within and find this resonance, and then that's it. I mean, then I guess you don't really need podcasts other than just to be a reminder. You know, that's it. That's all I like to say is I'm just a reminder here for you to go back to you, you know?
Which is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I wouldn't want
Learning
to
how
do,
to, oops, sorry.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't want to do anything else with my time in this technology that we're using, you
I
know?
agree.
Is that what
It's
you do
learning
it
how to
for?
be, I'm sorry.
Is that what you do it for? Like, you know, you could talk about anything on the internet,
Mm.
you know, but you choose to talk about these quite deep, quite esoteric subject matter. So, yeah,
Yeah.
why do you choose to serve in that way? Is this just like a natural inclination?
Yeah. It's just rooted so deeply into
Mm-hmm.
the core of my being that it has no choice but to come out.
Mm.
And for a long time, I was talking just to people in my life about these kinds of things, and they didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So it was like almost like I had to find a way to express what needed to be expressed, but to people who were open and receptive to hearing it. And
Yeah,
so I was like,
exactly.
well, I'll just start posting online, and whoever's meant to find me will find me. Um, and yeah, I just feel like, especially with this year, sorry, the sun is
You're
coming out
good.
from behind the trees. Especially this year, I feel like I have woken up almost to an even deeper level of remembering who I am and remembering, like, oh my gosh, like, this is why I came here to truly anchor in the presence of heaven on earth by becoming the presence of heaven on earth from within,
Mm.
and just showing it online throughout the process, just so, I don't know, to motivate others or to make people feel less alone or
Yeah.
to remind someone who has forgotten. But I believe that this is like the reason I came to earth, is just to remember and to help other people remember.
Mm-hmm. Two-way street. You remember, and then
Mm.
they remember, because there's really no
Mhm.
others. It's just, you know, you come to realize that the others per se are just another extension of yourself. So the more that you remember and contribute, the more that the others remember and contribute, and it goes on and on. Yeah,
Yeah.
win-win. Yeah. Well, thankfully we have people out there like you that provide testaments, and the greatest thing about it, yeah, is allowing others to not feel alone in this matter, because one could feel like they're going crazy, because this is completely contradictory and opposite to the popular paradigm, pretty much the entire world, and what they want to tell you on how to be happy and finding some sort of joy and peace in life. You know, it's just foreign. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
So to others on this wavelength, I think the greatest service we can do is provide a testament to say, hey man, you're good. You know, stay on this. This is the right path. You know, So yeah, hallelujah to the times that we live in. Seriously, that we can do
Yeah,
this and connect.
it's incredible.
Mm.
I just remember even whenever I was first going through all of this deep awakening and remembrance, I don't know, I don't want to say I wouldn't have made it, but I don't know, without the people who I really resonated with on that I watched on YouTube and other people that were going through the same thing that were sharing on YouTube, they helped me on such a immense level that it's so inexplainable. Like even how much they helped me along the way, because it is lonely and it does make you feel like you're going crazy. Nobody in your life has any idea what you're talking about. Like all of a sudden you're talking about other dimensions and realities and waking up to the Christ consciousness seat in your heart and all of these weird things. And people are just like, are you like insane?
Mm-hmm.
and so I just don't know how much longer it would have taken me to ground myself into my new reality if not for the people that shared their experiences on YouTube. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just hoping to give back in that same way.
Mm. Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't help but hold reverence for the people of the past that did this before the internet. That transferred their dharma to the world when they were the
Mm-hmm.
only one in the tribe. They were the only one in the village. So kudos to
Mm-hmm.
them, you know. I think this is the lifetime. If there are multiple lifetimes, if there is reincarnation, as we spoke on before, this is the one where you flip the switch. This is the one where we can all have the opportunity to get the message because it's so open and out there at this point. All of this
Mm-hmm.
knowledge that we're speaking on right now, one would have in the past either gotten us burnt at the stake, or two, just would have been a very protected. It was very protected within secret societies. It was sacred knowledge where only a certain amount of people could have it. You had to get initiated. You have to have a master. It was very protected for the right reason, so it didn't get distorted or diluted or just completely destroyed. And
Mm-hmm.
now the fact, like when you put that into perspective, and now the fact that we have this just out in the open, in the internet, on the internet, in our pockets, it's mind blowing to me, right? The
Mm-hmm.
fact that we can all have this sense of liberation, peace, and really find joy, to find the kingdom of heaven that they spoke of, like truly, not just talk about it, like actually feel that in your heart, embody that. It's mind blowing. It's actually, this lifetime is so special. It's so special, man. And maybe I'm biased because I'm in this lifetime right now. I don't think so though, because if you compare it to history, if you have a knowledge of the history and where we came from, this is unlike any, like, what are we doing right now? Has this ever happened? Zoom meetings? No, there's never been such thing as Zoom meetings and recording it and putting it on YouTube. That's just like we're living in a different dimension, or at least we're moving toward a different dimension, it seems, with the aid of the
Mm-hmm.
technology. So yeah, point of my story is the sort of sense of urgency in this lifetime I find to find people like you, to find sages of the past, and I guess you could say download some of the stuff, some of their dharma that is available, and make it
Mm-hmm.
accessible and usable for your life because it's viable for all of us. All of us are able to be on this wavelength and see this, feel this, realize God in this lifetime. It's
Mm-hmm.
either that or you get lost on doom scrolling and TikTok dance videos and cat videos. The choice is yours. Really,
Uh-huh.
how you want to do this technology can make you or break you. And I'm just grateful that there's people out there like you that will help make people, to guide the way and provide the testament, because you have to be vulnerable, right? You can probably
Mm-hmm.
attest to that. You have to sort of be vulnerable and put yourself out there as the potential crazy person and not care,
Mm-hmm.
and just not care. I like to say there's a fine line between enlightenment and insanity,
That is so true.
right?
Yes.
So yeah, kudos to you. Kudos to the sages of the past, because without them, I also would not be on this wavelength. Without the people just being vulnerable and putting their life in the past, putting their life on the line, I would also just be caught in the darkness. So yeah, amazing times that we are in.
That's true. I will say, I was thinking, and this popped into my mind on the flip side of the coin of how blessed we are to have all of this incredible wisdom and information just provided to us on the internet, it is also like an incredibly important time to practice discernment, because
Mm-hmm.
while there is so much beautiful wisdom and information, I feel as though it's almost like there's been an infiltration of and a distortion of the wisdom. And I don't think that people are doing it on purpose. But
I
I
know
just
what you
wanted
mean.
to mention this because there is so much information out there, and there are so many people who share their perspectives and their wisdom and information. And I think it's so important to tune into your own heart when you're listening to people talk on the internet, and just see how it makes you feel. If it makes you anxious or fearful or feeling like you're going into a sense of doom, or if it makes you feel open and expanded and excited. And I just felt like that was important to
Mm-hmm.
share at this time, because there are so many realms to get lost in out here on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. Yeah, with the amazing miracle of the times that we're in, also on the other side of the coin, it's a double-edged sword. With so much in access to information, that could be detrimental because there's just too much information. Even the stuff that is labeled as spiritual, quote unquote, or anything
Hmm.
that has to do with non-duality, self-realization, even that can be distorted, unfortunately. So yeah, that's a good point. Is even in the midst of that, let the intuition and discernment, viveka, guide the way. And
Yes.
yeah, it'll just be obvious. I think it's obvious to um, tell who is BS and who is real. You know, who is
Yeah.
just making some entertainment at the end of the day, and who is really, I don't know, just speaking from their heart. It's really, I feel it. You know, I feel it in somebody's voice. You know, I
Mm.
can just tell just right away, just the tone of their voice, the vibration that comes out of their vocal cords. I don't know what it is, but I can just tell when somebody's really about it. Real recognize real, as the kids say. So
Yeah.
yeah, but real also recognize fake. Real
Yes.
recognize fake. So yeah, point of the story. It's really just about going within. You know, you got to go within. You got to go within. The without is just serves as guideposts, and even the distortion can be a guidepost. You know, I like to say you got to
Hmm.
realize what isn't it in order to realize what is it. So even the teachers that aren't exactly the best teachers, you could say, serve as a teacher for you to go back in and say, oh, that I don't need that. I'm gonna go and meditate or do some yoga or whatever it is. So even the bad teachers can be good teachers in some way.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's all a teacher. I mean, everything is the guru if you really know how to
Yes.
look at it in the right way, right?
Hmm.
I think that's eventually where this all comes to too. Is everything, everybody is God in drag.
Yeah. That's
The
funny. Yeah, that's true.
external guru is just meant to bring you to the side guru within.
Mm.
If you know how to look
Yeah.
at it all with a keen eye, everything is the guru.
Always going back within.
That's it. It's the name of the game. Yep. The external leads to the internal, and the internal leads to the external. Or I like to say, actually, it's kind of like the external leads you into the internal, and then the internal lets you, as we spoke of before, work with the external a little bit better. I know it's sort of dualistic as we're speaking now, but I don't have any other way to say it. The internal
Yeah.
lets you transmutate the energies of the external. You know, when you work with this ultimate potential energy of God, the kinetic energy that comes from it is a beautiful dance. It's a beautiful, just a beautiful, just display of flow. It's Shiva to Shakti. You know, it's yin
Hmm.
to yang, and that's the dance of the Tao that I spoke of before. Yeah, so it all
Yeah.
comes from within. It all starts right here. The all is mind. It all starts right here.
That's so true. In order to truly transform the world, you must go within and transform your perception of the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that can be really confusing and challenging and frustrating at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning when you're learning what, at least I remember when I was learning what that even means or how to even do that. It was so annoying and so frustrating. I was just like, this is so stupid. This is stupid. I just want what I want. Why can't I have it?
Of course.
And it took years of not getting what I wanted in order to finally surrender to the fact that life is not about getting what you want all the time. And learning how to create that sensation that you wanted to receive from the external world and learn how to give that to yourself from within.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it doesn't matter what's happening around you.
Exactly. Yep. That's the curriculum here. I think that's what we're all learning.
Yeah, it's just a hard lesson.
Yeah, for sure. It's the school of hard knocks. This earth school that we are in. Yeah. But I do also believe that we signed up for it. This is part of our will. This is our intention, is to go through the many lessons that the human experience yields. Yeah, it's not like this is, I think that's a big thing that one can realize. It's not like this is an affliction, it's not like we were cast down to hell. We were cast out of heaven and it wasn't of our own accord. No, we did this to ourselves. We wanted to come here to experience the lessons here. And that's a huge thing to realize. So that means if we did this to ourselves, what is the reason? Like what was our intention, our deep intention, past like what the mind wants, past the materialistic desires? Like what was the real desire of casting ourselves out of heaven per se? Like why did we come to this school? And I think that is, that's a big realization and something to truly renew. Like that is something that I always renew every day as I wake up throughout the experiences of my day. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't look like this is for me, but I signed up for this. So how is this for me in this moment? Why am I going through this? Why, what is there's always that curiosity of knowing that all of this is for me to learn and grow. So how can I, as we spoke of in the beginning, how can I work with this rather than against it? And that's the essence. Yeah, you're either with it or against it.
That's true. Full circle.
Full circle right there. Exactly.
Surrender.
You're either with it or against it. Surrender. Yep. He who is not with me is against me. Yeah. Well, hey, full circle. That might be a good note to wrap this up at. But moral of the story is, this is like once you realize that the glory of God, you realize that this is all for you and that this is some benevolent experience. This is some benevolent simulation, you could say, that is all working in your best benefit for the greater good of yourself in the world, despite craziness of the world. It's in some way we can all find this perspective of being able to see the light in the darkness, the miracle despite the suffering and the chaos of the world. The order amidst the chaos, actually. And that all comes from within. Yeah.
Softening into the pain.
Yeah. That's the essence. Yeah. Well, hey, this was a great talk.
I was about to say that too. Like, this was a great conversation. Thank you.
For sure, April. I thank you for coming on here. I think you are a very wise and warm individual, and I wish you all the best. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. Do you have anything that you want to leave us on, though?
I don't think so. Nothing's coming to mind, but I would love to say thank you. And I think what you're doing is amazing. So keep going.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's only possible because of people like you, I don't like coming on here by myself. I need to have somebody else to listen to me, yammering on.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
It's good to have like energy to bounce off of.
Yeah, I need that. I don't know. I need that. Some people are good. Just turn on the camera and go, and I need somebody else there. So I appreciate you being there.
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, I wish you all the best. Keep doing your thing. Keep up the awesome work. And I'll put everything down in the description for people to find you. And that's it. Peace and love to you, April.
Bye. Thank you.
Peace and love to the listener. Goodbye, everybody.